Hey, what's up everybody? Back with another video for you today. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to cut, solder, and wire LED strips to make pretty much whatever you want. Coming up. Welcome to the channel. I do a lot of how-tos and reviews over here, so if you're new here, consider subscribing. Today's project, we're going to go over how to make an LED whip. This is one of my friends that I camp with. This is a 5150 whip. I know if you guys are cringy, look away because I'm going to cut this thing apart and turn it into something way better. These LEDs that are in here are considered a dumb LED. They only do, red, green, blue, and they flash. That's about it. There's not a whole lot of smart LED technology to this. What I'm going to be doing today is stripping this apart and rebuilding it with smart LEDs, that dance and chase and do everything. I'm going to go ahead and go over every process here that's needed and show you exactly how to rebuild this from the ground up, and it's super cheap to do. Okay, so if you guys don't already have a 5150 whip, I like using these personally because of the quick disconnect fittings here. It's a simple air fitting, Campbell-Hausfeld air fitting, and this is actually the weak point. This is where your whip connects, it goes on, and it comes apart. This is the weak point. So if you crash your quad, bike, side by side, whatever you're riding, this is going to be the part that breaks. And this is super cheap to get. You can get this at any Walmart. I just like how these go together. I love the fitting. The only problem you'll ever have with these is these little nipples, these little holes inside here. I don't know if you guys can get that in focus. These will waller out sometimes, and you'll want to just go ahead and sand these down or file them down, and this will go right back in. Super simple to do. I've had to do that a couple of times, but I ride pretty aggressive. A lot of the people I camp with I've made these for, and they don't have any issues with them whatsoever. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you don't have one of these whips yet and you want to get one, you can get the 5150 day whip. It's $40 for a 4-foot, I believe, and $60 for a 6-footer. That way, it's a lot cheaper that way because you're not going to have the controller in here and you're not going to have any of the LEDs. It's just going to be a basic raw whip that you can build on, and that's how I get started here. So this originally started life as a 5150 whip, as you can see here. I'm going to go ahead and cut this apart, strip it, and show you guys how I rebuild it. Okay, so here's the part. If you're cringy, if you love 5150 whips, look away now, because we're just going to go ahead and cut right into this sucker and tear it apart. And you can be careful with this if you want. I just get right into this sucker and just break it apart. I'm going to try to actually save the controller here for maybe another different project. But yeah, this is pretty much it. Just unwrap this sucker and start cutting away. The owner of this whip actually had problems with it, and 5150 is actually really good about backing their product. And I told him this. I was like, if you like that whip, you can go ahead and just send it back to them, and they'll probably just send you a whole new one out. But he wanted the smart whip. He wants it to, dance and chase and do everything that all my whips do. So we're gonna go ahead and just tear this thing apart, rebuild it the right way for him. See, and as we get down into this sucker, you can see where the problems are. Look, the LEDs in here are burnt. This thing was obviously having some grounding issues going on in here. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and strip this the rest of the way down here for you guys. And just like that, here you go. You have the working base that you want right here. Nice and clean. Now we'll go ahead and start rebuilding this. Okay, so The LEDs I'm going to be using here are the BTF Lighting WS2811s. These are smart LEDs. They're a little weaker, so when you build these things, you don't want to be bashing your whip around. You know, don't be smashing into trash cans and stuff like that. You know, with the smart technology comes, you know, unreliability. So I don't know if I can focus in on that, but this little piece right here is the chip, and there's one of those every 3 LEDs. So that little chip right there is the brains of the operation here, along with the controller. This is also a BTF controller. Always when you get these things, I've had some of these show up not working, just plug them in, make sure they're working, and then you can go ahead and cut it apart and start soldering, and we'll get to that right now. Okay, so when you get these, they're already going to come soldered up with their little connection on here. I don't like to use their solder point. I've had them fail in the past, so I like to go down your first 3 LEDs. You'll see this part right here. This is where you cut these, if it'll come into focus for you. I always like to cut as far back as possible because you're never going to use these 3 LEDs again. Try to cut back as far as possible to keep every bit of that copper in place so that it looks like that. And then there'll be a silicone casing over this. These are like IP65 or whatever, so they're completely silicone, they're completely waterproof for the most part. But I like to peel that back, get your scissors under there. Sorry if you can't see this. This is a kind of a tedious little job here. Hard for the camera to pick up. And just go ahead and lop off some of the silicone. That way, now it's available here. Yeah, your 12 volt. Then you got your connector, or your controller, I'm sorry. And then you got your ground. And these are very tedious to solder, and I'm hoping that I can kind of put this in focus for you guys to see. Okay, so for the sake of saving you guys some time here, I went ahead and stripped these wires off the controller. So first off, you're going to want to tin them with solder, and I highly recommend flux. Just dip it in there, and be very careful when you're doing these, but you need to get these, just get a little bit of flux on them. You don't need a whole lot. And then go ahead and tin each one of these wires first. The solder should just stick right into them. Hopefully I got that on camera for you guys. And then the fun part. Go ahead and take your soldering iron and just put a little bit of solder on it. Like I said, you don't need a whole lot here. This is a very tedious job. Okay, so start with one wire, whatever is easiest for you to get to first, whether you're left-handed, right-handed, and place it on here. I know they probably make better tools to hold these wires in place, but I'm just working with what I got here. So like I said, red is your power, green will be your controller, and white will be your ground. You don't want to apply too much heat to this because these solder points are very, very weak. I mean, you can pop these up. It's like a copper sticker. I don't even know how they make these darn things, but they're something incredible. But yeah, not the best solder job I've ever done, but as you can tell, that's how it's done right there. And if you've done this right, you should be able to go ahead and just plug right in, and there you go. There's your solder point. Like I said, they're durable, but don't be yanking on these super hard. I'm gonna go ahead and shrink wrap these up, keep them nice and secure. Okay, so save you guys a little more time here. Go ahead and tape your controller down to the base here. Wrap your cords around, and then go ahead and peel off the sticky paper. On the bottom of these LED strips, there's a sticky paper. Go ahead and peel that off, and then go ahead and just start winding around. Try to make them good and tight, but again, don't be pulling on these things super hard. They're not exactly the strongest thing in the world. What I've found with these strips, you get these in about a 16 foot, I think it's 16.4 foot roll. That's good enough to do a whole 4-footer. If you need to do a 6-footer, you'll have to cut and solder another strip in, about half a roll. I can show you how to do that right here. It's also good to note that you're going to want to do this fast. Make sure you have everything set up and ready to put your outer coat of shrink wrap on, your clear coat of shrink wrap, because this silicone wrap that's on these LEDs does not like to be bent. Okay, so as you've wound towards the end, you're going to see you only have a little bit left. I like to put the caps back on these, so you can see here's another cut point. And again, cut these so that you can reuse this strip, whatever's left of it. There's hardly any at all, but cut this strip so that you can reuse it. So you're going to cut right here. I can get that camera for you. That way you can reuse this end for a future project. Leave all your solder point there. And then your end of it should look like that, so you can put on your cap. Go ahead and slap a little tape on here to hold this end down, because it's going to want to keep coming up on you. And then we'll move on to the next step here. Okay, so once you've gotten that far, go ahead and plug it back in, make sure everything's working. You can see she looks good. Once everything's working, then you can proceed to the next step. Okay, and go ahead now and tape up the rest of your controller. Make sure it looks nice and tidy there. This is where, keep in mind, this is where everybody's going to be grabbing right here. They're going to be trying to fight their whip, get it on and off. You want this to be in place. And for this, I like to use kind of what sets my whips apart from everyone else's. This is a very thick shrink wrap right here, and it's glued inside. It's heat activated. So when you slip this over, go up to the first few LEDs. Don't worry about trying to save an LED right here. You want to more protect this connection. This is the weakest point, and you want this to be solid. So go ahead and fire up the heat gun. Alright, well, sorry about the noise. I'm going to go ahead and start shrinking this down here. Like I said, this stuff's incredibly thick. It takes a while to shrink down even. So try to get it even. Rotate it. Shrink it all the way home. Try to stay away from the controller and any of the LEDs. Try to keep most of the heat off of that. Get yourself preheated down towards the metal first, and kind of just work it closed. And you can see all that glue squeezing out. It's good. That's going to keep any sand and water out. And this is going to make this thing last for years to come. And again, just watch when you get close to these LEDs. Don't try to bake them. Just let the thing close on them and let it seal up. Just like that. And there you have it. Now we'll go ahead and do the trickiest part, and I'll show you the trick on how I do that. Oh, also at this stage, always just plug in, check to make sure everything works. And it'd help if I have it plugged in, huh? There we go, we still work. So just always kind of double check your work when you're doing stuff like this, make sure that everything's still working correctly. Now we'll go ahead and apply the outer shrink wrap. Okay, you're going to want a 3/4 inch clear shrink wrap for the outside. I don't know if this is going to focus here. I'll put all the links in the description for all of this stuff, so if you're really wondering, just click that drop down and I'll have all the links in there for you to follow. This stuff is kind of a pain in the butt to get on sometimes, but I'll show you my little trick that I use. Works really, really well. Okay. Okay, stretch yourself out about 4 feet or so. Try to open your end up. The first time I did this, it was a pain in the butt until I figured out it needs a little lubrication. And you don't want to actually add water to this. But what does have a little bit of water in it and lubrication that evaporates really easy is WD-40 on a napkin. And just go ahead, slop this thing down. I can hear the comments already. I know it looks bad. Just lube your pole up. Just want to have a little lubrication so it's not so sticky. You know, you get silicone on silicone here. It doesn't like to cooperate all the time. And then go ahead and try to start slipping this sucker home. If you got enough lubrication, it should just slip right on pretty easy. There you can see the lubrication starting to stiffen up, not letting me go all the way down. Like I said, you'll fight with this. It's even more cumbersome on on a 6-foot whip. That ought to work there. Bring it all the way down to the end of this so you can cover up all your connections and everything down here. And then you can go ahead. Actually, we can go ahead and cut this end off here. Cut about an inch from the tip there. It's gonna stretch and shrink a little bit, so don't worry about it if you don't got enough up there. You can always trim. And don't, on your ends, don't heat them too hard or it actually shrinks so much that it'll split. So this is a happy medium here. We're just heating it up enough so that it grips tighter on LEDs. And there you have it. And again, test your product. Make sure she still works. Let's plug it in this time, huh? So we don't look like an idiot. Well, we probably look like that anyways. Hey, if you guys have made it this far, I really appreciate you guys watching, you know. I mean, I do this stuff for you guys. I don't make any money from this. Well, I'll make money on this whip, but I don't make any money from these videos. Just show you guys how to do it. You know, it's super simple to do. Let's get this sucker set up and I'll show you some of the modes that it does. Alright, well, let's see if I can get this to show up on camera. These things are so bright that it kind of just washes out the camera. But the cool thing about these controllers is that you can adjust your pixels and everything that's in here. So see if I can find a setting here. So it does stacking and dancing, and I think there's like 300 presets in this controller, which is cool because the first 150 go up and then the next 150 go down. So like how it's going up now, that same setting, you know, 150 more modes down the line will go down. And this controller has a DIY setting on it, so you can set presets like your car stereo, which makes it nice. So if you find ones that you like, you can just set them into your presets and just scroll through your presets. Let's see, trying to find you a stacking one here. There's so many. Yeah, and you can speed it up and slow it down. I think this one gives you a seizure if you go fast. Yeah, I don't think the camera does this thing much justice either, but as you can see, it's stacking in multiple parts of the whip, and that's because I've adjusted the pixels so that, yeah, I can set it up to stack 4 times in the whip, stack 2 times, stack once, stack from the bottom, stack from the top, however you want, pretty much. Highly customizable. Yeah, I'll save you the hassle here of going through all 300 modes. But as you can see, it does just about whatever you want with whatever colors you want.